Hi there folks, I'm about to change my timing belt on my truck, 2006 Tundra. It's the truck I use for my boat, where I take it to locations to fish. I got about 100,000 miles. Hopefully the information that I will put on the video will help anyone out there who's trying to do the same. Stay tuned. Alright, I'm about to continue here and changing a timing belt on a Toyota Tundra, and as you can see, I have already removed the radiator. The first thing you need to do is remove the skid plate, which is on the floor over there. And once you've done that, on the right hand corner of the radiator is a little butterfly which you release to let the antifreeze pour out. And while that's all happening, you will come back up here and start working on taking the air induction pieces and everything off, your upper hoses, your vacuum lines. And once you've accomplished that, then you got to go back down again. You have to remove the lower hose, and over here, as you can see, excuse the little shaking there, but those are your transmission lines. Those go right into the radiator, and what that allows to do is that it keeps the transmission fluid cool. Now, once you remove those from the radiator, you are going to have a little bit of spillage of that transmission fluid. Your best bet is to remove them and keep the hose pointing upwards so that you don't lose too much of the transmission fluid. I've used the somewhat of the line bracket there to hold those lines up while I continue to work on removing the rest of this. Now, the next step for me is to take the fan off, and once I've removed that, then I will continue working and taking off the serpentine line, the timing belt covers, and then the thermostat, and then proceed on down to the dampener, and that's going to require a torque wrench or impact wrench to remove, and then an extractor. And then I will proceed on to lining up the markers and then continue on. Definitely not a job for the weak-hearted. It does require quite a bit of dismantling of the front of the engine here. What I've learned is that if you're gonna take any of the parts, it's best to keep them all in Ziploc bags and label them as you remove them. What I've learned that from a couple of guys who've made some videos on taking out the timing belt. Also, while I was sitting here looking over the stuff on how I'm going to approach this, I noticed that the serpentine belt, let's see if I can get you to see that, it's got a little bit of wear and tear. There's actually cracks in it, which means that it's always best to take that belt and replace it with a new one while you're at it. Some people may just use the belt again, even though the belt may look good. It's been exposed for quite a bit of heat and dirt element, and that kind of puts a wear and tear on the belt. In the meantime, I'm gonna turn this off, and then I'll get back videotaping on the progress of removing this. Oh, there's another thing that some guys were suggesting, was to remove the air conditioner compressor. And that kind of involves getting underneath, getting into the back, taking out a cover off of it, and then accessing another bolt. But while looking in YouTube, I saw a gentleman who did the whole timing belt and said there was really no need to take the compressor out. He didn't understand why they remove it. So I'm going to try to attempt not to do it, taking out the air conditioner compressor, and try to work around that. I think it's more so for the exposure of the timing belt, but I'll see what it'll be like once I get there. And then if need be, I will remove the compressor, but I'm hoping not to, because it's one less thing I have to deal with. There's still quite a bit of antifreeze on the upper part of the motor, so that means that at some point when I start dismantling below, there's yet more of that antifreeze to drop. What I did was I empty out the pan. As you can see, the pan is empty. Over 5 gallons of antifreeze was poured out the first shot around, and I'm sure there's a lot more in there. But to make things more simpler, I took and contained the antifreeze that was already expelled from the engine. Makes it much easier, and I always try to keep the underbot part of the of where you're working clean. When I first dropped all that fluid out, it became kind of messy. So once you've gotten a lot of the stuff out, then you can get into cleaning your work area. It makes for better, and this way you can get in and out without getting too dirty. Anyway, we'll continue, and I'll let you know how we make out. Okay, as you can see, the serpentine belt has been taken off. You're going to use a 14 millimeter socket here, and you're going to torque, and that's going to allow you to loosen up the belt, and you'll be able to pull it out. There's actually a hub here that sits behind the fan, and that will also come out. And all that you just take off and put off to the side. And now we're gonna continue on and taking the rest of the stuff on the motor. Okay, as you can see, I got more antifreeze. I covered that sensor down there only because that antifreeze comes out quite a bit, and I didn't want that wire to get wet with antifreeze, so I put a little plastic over it. The hardest part was trying to get this little rubber hose that connects to a little copper or aluminum pipe that goes back here, you can see, to that. It's actually cools the oil of the motor. You have to kind of finesse it and work with it. Not an easy thing to do. I took the tension pulley out. I disconnected this electrical wire here, and now I'm just going to clean up a little bit so I can get on to the next part of this phase. But so far so good in taking everything apart. There have been some little challenges here and there, but overall it's kind of a process, you know, real pain in the butt. Well, anyway, we will get back on the continuation of this project. So now we got the right cam and the left cam covers off. And now we're going to take off the power steering. And then after that, the alternator. Alright, we got timing belt off, water pump off. Basically now we're just getting it ready to put another pump in. Alright, as you can see, the new belt is on. And the crank cam matches there. Matches there. And also matches down below. Look here. I can do this. You see that it matches down below there. Anyway, I'm gonna stop for now because I got yet to do a little bit of cleaning and stuff like that, and I'll continue to finish this tomorrow. I got the thermostat housing put in and a couple of the covers, and we should be pretty much set to go. Add the antifreeze after the radiator and everything else is put together, and crank it over. You know, and actually the belt wasn't too much of a bad shape. I probably could have gone much further on it. But the thing is, you know, we are traveling with this vehicle some distance. The wife is traveling some distance with it, and peace of mind, it's best just to change it out. So anyway. Okay, so far what we've done here is we got the chain, the belt on. We're about to finish covering the dampener, and then we're going to give it a crank just to make sure that everything's pretty much set, and then we'll proceed putting the rest of the covers, and then from there on we'll attach all the radiator hose, the radiator, and so on. Okay, so we got the cover, got the dampener on, and I just did a test to make sure that the belts is on timing. So I have a marker here on the left cam, marker there on the right cam, and the dampener. So it all seems to all check. Looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to continue putting in the thermostat, rest of the cover, serpentine belt, and we should be good to go. Alright, so now we have the radiator put on. I found that the fan shroud, you have to put that on first before you could put the radiator on. And the radiator has a clip there and a bolt right up there and another bolt on the bottom. Same thing on the opposite side. I'm pretty much done as far as putting the covers and everything else on it. I just have a couple of knickknacks to do. And then coming over to the workbench here, this is the bottom part of the fan shroud. What I did was I unclipped it, and actually I think it was designed that way so that you're able to take the radiator out, because what happens is that the radiator intake on the bottom hits when you try to put it in. So you take this off, and then here are the parts that were changed. Very important to do the stuff in Ziploc bags. As you notice, it was all labeled. It makes for easy, man, I tell you, because if you don't do it, you're going to end up having 1,000 screws, and you're going to end up having serious problems trying to put everything back together. Here's my hoses. I still got a few of those to work on, and the skid plate on the bottom. And that's basically the whole thing. So hopefully within a few minutes or so I'll have this truck running. Alright guys, here it is. The job for the timing belt for the Tundra is done. I kind of laid some stuff here for display. The water pump here had to be replaced. That's a must on all these vehicles, being that the water pump sits behind the belt. So that is a must. Along with that, you also have to change the thermostat. Beefy thermostat from the Tundra. I didn't like the one that replaced it. Kind of looks like Mickey Mouse, but it is what it is, and I didn't want to put the old one in. So this is basically what the water pump looks like. As you can see, it looks pretty good. Only problem is that once you start running this for extra miles, the bearings in this impeller can go bad, and then you're gonna have a little problem in your hands because you got to take everything apart again. Along with that, there is some O-rings that you have to also replace, and basically it sits on this back portion of the pump, but there's actually another male end of it sitting in the engine. You also got to replace the tensioner pulley that basically gives the timing belt the tension. And for all purposes, I took the old one, and I tell you, this pin here in the center, it is very hard to put back. You actually have to recompress it again with a C-clamp or something, because it's not something you can do by hand. But when you buy the new one, it is basically something like this. I put the pin in so you can see it looks more like something like a grenade. Once you have this tensioner end, this hydraulic tensioner end, which sits right underneath this, basically when your belt's in place and you have this bolted at the bottom to its base, you pull this pin, and this little metal pin here comes up and makes contact with this bottom portion of the pulley. It's important that you have everything aligned before you pull this pin, because the only way you're ever going to get this pin back in there is to have to compress this. And I would assume the reason why we changed these out is because the wear and tear in this, and you don't want it to go bad on you while you're having a new belt put on. And here's the fan belt. It's definitely needed to be changed. If you can see, it's got a little rot in it. It was dry rotted, so we changed that. Another pulley too that's on the opposite side of the pump. Now, I did run into a problem, and basically I didn't really put too much attention to what I was doing, but when you take your timing belt off, actually when you take the crankshaft dampener off, there's a plate, a little sprocket plate. It's concaved on one side and straight on the other. You have to make sure that when you replace that back, that the concave part of it faces out. If you don't do that, you are going to run into some problems when you go to start it, because basically what this does, it distributes the sequence of the fuels to the cylinder basically on time. You don't have it right, your vehicle's not going to turn on. So you got to make sure that you put that plate according to the way you take it off. It's very important. The other thing too is when you're putting the belt on, you're always going to start on the right side of the cam, or other words, left side of the cam if you're sitting on the driver's side. And basically you're going to go around, over, and then to your left side. You have a little bit of leeway to play with this, because basically when you're getting that belt on, it's kind of tight. It's not something that you're going to slide real easy to it, but you are able to do it. Recommendation is to, once you got everything in, you've gotten that tensioner to tighten that belt, you're gonna put a wrench at the dampener once you've tightened it, and you're gonna manually crank it to make sure that all your alignments, all your line markers align. Suggestion is to take a spark plug off to make it easier, because the compression is great on the engine, so, and it's not easy to turn. But once you've done that and you see that your alignments, your markers have aligned, then you're good to go. And then you go through the process of putting everything together. But the one that you usually have a little leeway to play is with the left side of the cam. And you definitely don't want to move any of this once you've taken that belt off. Only when you're putting the belt back on that you have at least two of these secure, and you can play a little bit with this. Now I found that when I was trying to put the belt, the right side moved a little bit, so I put a wrench on it and kind of held it in place while sliding to one side of the belt. So basically what you see here on the floor is what comes off on the vehicle. And you add your fluid in, and make sure that everything is nice and tight according to pounds per pressure, and and basically once you got it done, you're good for another 100,000. Although I have to say that my belt looked pretty good. I probably could have gotten another 50,000 miles off of it, but for peace of mind, I decided it's just change it all out. That's it. I hope that this will inform all you guys who are going to attempt to try to change your timing belt. Expect it to be a little bit of a work job, but once you've got it done, you pretty much save yourself quite a bit of money, and you're also going to be good for another 100,000 miles on the vehicle. Okay, here it is, folks. Everything is put together. I'm about to crank it over, and you'll get to see the end result of my timing belt change. That's it, folks. Timing belt in, motor's running perfect, good for another 100,000 miles.